Yeah, hey guys, how are you? Today we're looking at Bitcoin and just some of the things that have been going on. So why don't we get into it shortly? I'm Bitcoin Bankers, always bank on Bitcoin, and let's get into it. Okay, so here we are. We're going to look at the charts for a little bit. Do apologise, I haven't been here the last few days. If you do watch this, I've had a few family things to sort of sort out there, but pretty much getting all that sorted out. So why don't we start on the hour with Bitcoin? Okay, and we can see previously this range here and this date that I did set. I originally said around the 17th of April. After that there would be a change, and we did see that. So 17th of April was here, and that's basically right where the dissension started. And we dropped right through, breaking support, came right down, had a big dump. And Bitcoin has really changed its whole mode and trajectory of its operation, hasn't it? You know, it's really fallen back. So now we have to start sort of looking at, you know, what are the next moves for Bitcoin? There's a lot of people out there saying that Bitcoin will drop way down to $30,000, $40,000, things like that. At the end of the day, if it does move down that way, I think it's going to be a bit of a slow ride. Might get a couple of big drops like this, but I'm not sure if we're going to actually drop between below the $49,000. It is on the cards, and that's what we have to consider now. So let's go to the 4 hour. Again, not a big change. This was the old mark of $60,000 that everyone was hoping for, but that's not going to happen, so let's get rid of that. On the 4 hourly, on the stochastic, you can see that it's moving into another bit of a sell-off phase, but on the 1 hour before, you probably saw it was sitting flat. So I'll just go back to that for a minute. And we can see that it is sitting flat. And once it gets this kind of, what would you say, this formation, I guess, it's starting to head down for a little bit lower, even though she's really in the oversold territory there. Really sort of moving down, and so depending on what happens here on the 1 hour, you can look at the lower time frames. So 15 minute, it's overbought. The 5 minute, moving into overbought territory. Still trying to keep the value up, but not helping a lot. 30 minute, starting to try and work its way up, but these sort of smaller moves, all they really do is kind of slow down the drops that Bitcoin has. And this is how I use the indicator to a certain extent. I use it to find out, what kind of big drops we're having. Is it slowing down? What's the market doing? What are people's buying patterns? You know what I mean? And this could sort of, these small buys here, this sort of uprise could just represent people trying to accumulate at these areas. So we'll go back to the 4 hour, and here we go. So look, this may continue down. We've had this crossover here on the 4 hour already, moving into sort of territory where it can start selling off. But it may be slowed down by that 1 hour. There's not a lot of action on the lower time frames that are really showing us that this price is going to even bounce back up a couple of thousand, which would be good. But at the moment, it's still coming down. Still have a lot of decline. There's quite a bit of selling volume there still. Let's go to the daily, and we can see that the daily now has flattened off. So essentially on the 1 hour, the daily, and the weekly, which we'll see soon, notice that the hard selling momentum has kind of dissipated. There's still a steep decline on the K. Okay, the K line here, K percentages, is represented as percentages. But they're dropping off. They've hit a bottom here. There's been a lot of selling volume, and all up, let's have a bit of a look here. If we take it from, say, the 63 down to the bottom here, we're looking at 20%, 19%. Okay, so 19% sell-off. 20% is considered bearish. Okay, moving into a bear market. And we covered that the other day on one of our videos. Everyone was freaking out when it dropped 5%. Well, Now it's dropped almost 20. I think it will continue to come down a little bit more. I don't think it's going to break the $50,000 line in the next few days, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it is slowing, and it'll just be a bit of a slow decline, sort of down here, you know, and then it might bounce up a bit and then come down. And just gonna have to wait and see what happens. I think we might just get a bit of flat action here. We might get sort of maybe a scare a bit under. I really don't think it's going to drop under there much, so I think it's kind of going to be bouncing around this area for a little while. Let's get rid of those. So, look, Bitcoin's not looking too good at the moment. The 1 hour that is sort of trying to work its way up later may start to take a bit more of effect once everything sort of bottoms out and balances out a bit. We do have strong support around this area where it's sort of touching. So for me, I think Bitcoin's still going to take a little bit longer to ease down. It might just go a bit flat, and then once this gets down to the bottom and we have a crossover at the bottom here of the daily, it might even start rising up, I'm not quite sure. And the 4 hour sort of finishes its whole momentum, I think there is some good rises, but this might take us into May. I think the end of November, there's a lot of things going on. You got end of tax season in America. You got, I think there's a lot of options that might be expiring at the end of April. That can cause people to try and sort of sell off and things like that. So there's a number of things around the market that I think are going to keep Bitcoin squashed down. I don't expect any drastic uprise back over the 60 anytime soon, or even to 58. I think we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer, let this whole sort of sell-off play out. Now, we're going to move to the higher time frames, the longer time frames, okay? And this is the weekly. So you can see that it's still sort of really only in its early days on the weekly, and when we go to the monthly, you'll also see this. Still in its early days of sort of pulling back and having this correction. Remember, down to about this line, that's about the 20% mark. So we're not quite bearish yet, but it is getting closer to that bearish trigger, I'll say that. If it comes under this, maybe we'll sort of get support around the 45. Worst case scenario, I think, for now, in the immediate short term, meaning the next maybe 2 weeks. There's been a very slow, steady drop down of the stochastic here, and I think this whole divergence that everyone was talking about earlier is now starting to come into action. So the price was just a little bit behind the indicator in this instance. And the indicators was actually leading the way. Once this levels out, this might take quite a little bit longer time. You know, maybe by mid-May, we might see this kind of level out, and Bitcoin might start to sort of have its if it's down around this region here, might start to find its new feet. And then once all this starts beginning, if it begins, then we can see a good run from maybe the low 50s up to maybe 110, 120. We could have that kind of rise. So we could have that 2x just up to in this area once we get out of the weekly and the daily all sort of flatten out. I mean, the whole thing is just kind of recalibrating and finding its feet. It needs to cool off. It's had a massive run up. Bitcoin has had a huge run up. So I think it just needs that time to chill out, find out what its value is. In the meantime, there will be a lot of buying, and later in the year, I think, as we respond to all the institutional buying, then I think we may see a very big run up, because we're going to see this weekly start to work its way up with the daily, with the four. We're going to see this work up with the daily and with the 4 hour. And once they all come into sync, which is what I've always talked about with these indicators, once the oscillators get into sync and they all start moving together, then you can start seeing some big pumping, okay? They have to sort of work together. When they start falling out of time and really working against each other, that's when you get consolidation, a bit of confusion in the markets, things like that. Now, here's the big one on the monthly. We're starting to see this monthly cool off is coming into a crossover. If this really starts crossing over and pushing down, we could start seeing Bitcoin really pull back hard. You know what I mean? It could break through this range and really start to come down hard. And I would expect if it did to maybe hit this area here. Now that's really low. That's only if it went straight down, but I don't think it's going to. You know, I think it can find support sort of 44, it can find support 33, 28. So it can find support along all these areas. And I think this, if all this does pull back and starts to have an effect, I think the ultimate area will be around here. By the time the moving average comes up and things like that, this might be the area where we see Bitcoin sort of settle and start to pull back. If it all does sort of still keep moving, I still think we're going to find quite a bit of support around this region here, so it might be okay. It just depends what happens. We just have to wait and see. Because we have a big wave of institutional purchasing coming in the next 6-8 months, it may not sort of see anything below 45, and then she'll just start kicking back into gear and taking off. I mean, when you think about it, we do have, you know, sort of from here up to, you know, there's 250 there. So can Bitcoin come down, cool off a bit, and then start working its way up like that? Absolutely. That is really not very difficult for Bitcoin to do at all, which would mean on here, it sort of comes down a little bit and then hits some sort of medium and then comes back up. We get right up to this range, and then maybe later next year, we maybe start working our way back down again. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. It's a long way off. I am giving you long predictions as well as short ones. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. We're gonna just have to sit tight, guys, and wait to see what happens. Okay. Looking at Ethereum now. Ethereum monthly is pretty much on the same trajectory as Bitcoin, but let's go to the lower time frames. Let's go to the hour. Okay. Now, I was sort of in and out Bitcoin here and there since last Friday. I've since sort of sold and stayed out of it. It's still making some good moves. It's just getting a little bit of weariness around here. Hasn't broken the previous high, which we're waiting for. Okay. Bitcoin, what was it? Ethereum ETF opened up today. I think it was in Canada. So that could be sort of helping the price around here. Stochastic is showing me more that it's moving back into a... these don't tend to last too long when they get like this. They tend to sort of curl back up. So we could get a bit more of a buying potential and head back towards the $2,500 mark for Ethereum, but not right away. Not right away. Okay, I would say it's going to go down first. So maybe a few more days of just sort of fart-arsing around, but it's a bit tough to say because price action is showing something completely different to the stochastic. Okay, so when you have these sort of, I won't say divergences, but when you have this kind of conflict, it's best to just sort of stay out of the market and just let it level out. Okay, order books have to level out. They always want to sort of be in balance, and then you get your big orders and you get your big sell orders, and then it throws the book out again. And the books are always trying to balance. They always want to balance up. So if we go to the 4 hour, again we can start to see on a lot of these coins, the 4 hourly is really sort of, I wouldn't say it's overbought like this, but it is in the overbought range, and they want to cool off. So we're moving it across over here. The volume, the purchasing volume can still pump it up higher and completely ignore this, and this will eventually respond to the price. Okay. Still a little way from the moving averages. Okay. and but they are very squashed down and condensed. They might want to spring up, and they can sort of push Ethereum up higher. So yeah, there might be a $100 buy. So if you put, if you had say 5, 10 Ethereum, so 10 Ethereum, for every $100 move, you're going to make $1,000. So that's not a bad little move there. But I would probably just hold off a little bit. Like I said, price-wise looking good. On the indicators, not so good. Okay. If we go to the daily, again, it's a turnaround, but it's not strong. Okay, we still have the upper line coming down, working its way down, and we have the I'm just trying to think what I can call it here. The lower blue sort of immediate price indicator turning around and sort of coming back up, and sooner or later they'll either cross or they'll meet and then react. Okay, so they'll either merge and come down, or they'll cross. It depends how aggressive the buying power is. It's going to go and try this new top, so it looks like we're starting to get this new triangle form. Okay, which is good. Ethereum really has been going pretty well lately. It's maybe it's really starting to come into its own. So we might see this sort of pump up and then a drop back down, and then just play in this range a little bit and shoot up again. Again, this is our target here, the $4,000 mark roughly. I want to see if it gets to here this year. Looking more and more likely the way things are going, so it's going pretty strong, it's going pretty good. If we have a look on the weekly, just to end with it, weekly is very strong for Ethereum on the stochastic. Price range as well, very, very strong. So weekly, I think we have the potential to maybe just sort of come up, bounce around a bit, and bang, shoot off. Definitely over the next 2 weeks, starting probably from tomorrow. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. It is very bullish. Ethereum is very strong, and we'll have to wait and see there. So just give it another day, see how things go over the next 12 hours, and you might find a good buy position here. I think probably around the 2300 maybe area in that price range should be pretty good. Okay, that's Ethereum. Let's move on to, let's have a look at Cardano. Cardano kind of responding with Bitcoin. I won't worry about the weekly too much. It's not looking the best, but if we go to the daily, there is a big kind of turnaround in the price. Still hanging in the triangle, still working its way. It's dropped out a little bit. It looks like it could be forming this kind of morning star pattern, which basically, you'll have a big bar and then you'll have a lower where it's dropped down and then a fight back. Okay, so it could have this on the daily. It's starting to come around. A bit of time before they meet and cross over, so it's interesting to see. There's quite a bit of opportunity for a bit of upside to get back into the into this triangle. If it gets back into the triangle, and starts to flow with the rest of the altcoins and things, we might be able to salvage what's been lost. I'm still holding Cardano. I only hold a little bit, not a lot. And we'll have to wait and see how we go from there. I'd like to see it come back up, and if it comes back up, it might be pretty strong. 4 hourly, same story. It's oversold, so I'm not going to waste time on that. We're just waiting for it to hopefully pop back up in here. The ribbon is not giving me a lot of confidence at the moment. About to sort of have, it's crossing through the band, and might start sort of push that down a little bit more. So Cardano is facing a lot of resistance at the moment on a lower time frame, on the 4 hourly here. On the 1 hour, it's looking a lot more aggressive. I'll just fix this. Looking a lot more aggressive. We could have some nice potential upside. Hopefully this might be the move it makes to push Cardano back into the triangle and give it a bit of a fighting chance to redeem some of the losses here, because all these coins are looking so good, that we're sitting on top of the forgot the name. They're all breaking through this ascending triangle. It's pretty unusual that they've all collapsed and come back down this far and this bad. It's quite unusual that they would have dropped like this. I can't explain exactly what it is other than it's line up with Bitcoin. Okay, now you'll have a look over here. They've turned all green again, but I've been seeing this all day. They've been green, then they go red, then they go green, then they go red. There's just, it's not going to be a lot of confidence to jump in just yet. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer myself before I make any more trades. I'm just going to hodl what I hodl and wait for the rest to show me that there is some strength. That we can get a decent move to make some sort of profit over the next 24 hours. Okay. What else can we look at? Let's go to the, actually I'll look at Binance first. Binance is been interesting. It's really quite aggressive on the price, okay, and the candles. Kind of flattened out on the stochastic, not really showing a lot. But if I was to look at just the price, I'd say it's quite bullish, and there's a pretty good chance you might have a nice big run up pretty soon. The daily is just starting to get that momentum where it can do that. The 4 hourly, again, being sustained by a lot of the support in this region. Not that there's a lot of it, but there is support around here. Okay, but if this 4 hourly, again, this is why I'm sort of staying out of this at the moment. I want to see this 4 hourly kind of descend more first and just expend that selling energy across the market, because this is happening on a lot of different coins in the same kind of position. So I think they just really need to expel a lot of this selling energy. People are trying to get back in at better prices or different prices and things like that. But sometimes it's better just to hold off and see where it's going. Again, the hourly looking pretty aggressive. You could do an hourly trade here, maybe a good 4 hour trade, 5 hour trade, and hold on to that. But always check your lower time frames before you decide to. Don't just base it off the 1 hour. But we might get a rise up to about this sort of marker. And so within that range, that's a 5% move. It's better than what you get on most of the stock market today. So, depending what you buy, of course. But, there's a 5% move there. And if you have, let's say you have, I'm always rounding these figures, but if you've got $10,000 on Cardano and it has a 5% move, well, you're looking at $500 for 5 or 6 hours in a slow market where there's a bit of risk of it sort of dropping further. So it does have a bit of resistance to get through if it's going to make that kind of move. So to have a look on the lower time frame, it doesn't have a lot of steam. Again, getting into overbought region, so it's going to have a bit more of a pullback. I would essentially wait for a few more hours, let this sort of ease off a bit, see where it's going to go. And once some of those lower time frames sort of come back down, just see where you are, reassess the situation. As long as it doesn't break under here too much, might be all right. I mean, it could pull back and sort of stay in here and then start to go up. But again, trading is very hard, guys. Hard to find the right pick, hard to find the right position. Anyway, I think this has been going on a bit too long. Why don't we just have a quick look at the stock market in the US? Okay. That's on the 1 hour. Always best to have a look at stock markets on like a minimum of a daily. Okay. It's had its 13, change of trend. There's been a bit of a buyback, but I don't think this is going to last too long. Let's have a look at the 4 hour quickly. That's turning around. Might have a bit more of a boost later tonight. The 1 hour, not that this is worth anything. Hitting a 9, but still quite a bit of room to move. I think the stock market has maybe sort of found I won't say a top, but I think it's starting to reach and expand its limits as far as it can go. This can keep going up and up and up and up, but let's have a look on the weekly. Once again, it's kind of, there's more room for it to move up. Still quite bullish on the price. Lots of opportunity for it to really shoot up even higher on the price. It's looking really bullish on the price, but if you look at the indicators and things, which on the lower time frames, I don't know. I think it's a ticking tock, It's a ticking time bomb. I think just waiting to sort of have a bit of a pullback. Nothing bad pullback, but it's going to change trend sooner or later, and I think it's probably going to be sooner than later. But again, I'm not a whiz on the stock market, so I wouldn't know. The Australian stock market, where are we? Again, keeping its head above this new high that it's creating. Okay, nothing. It doesn't look great. If anything, it looks like sort of pull back a little bit here. But there's pretty strong sort of, now that's just sort of broken over. If you have a look at the monthly, let's have a look. Yeah, putting along nicely. There's still quite a bit of room to make some growth on the monthly. This is our line that we had here. We want to see if it breaks this line. The daily, yeah, again, it's starting to head back down. I think it's losing a bit of its strength. It's just finding a bit of that resistance there and reacting to that. Might have a bit more of a pullback here. Just have to wait and see how it goes. I don't think there's anything volatile or heavily dangerous. It's only if the US market sort of starts having a serious downturn, then everyone else responds. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it. Dogecoin, let's quickly look at Dogecoin at the end. Okay, so it's starting to make its pullback. It's on a 1. It's had a 9 candle here, which is usually the end of a, not a full end of a trend, but it's used up a lot of its sort of buying energy, and it needs to have a breather and pull out and cool off. Okay, so it's going to drop down to this range here. Best case scenario, but you are having a pullback here on the 4 hour. 4 hours really flat. There is an opportunity for Doge to maybe sort of have another fire up and have a go at this this line here. Let's move that up a little bit. So it could be starting to get ready to shoot up towards this this marker again, and see it's going to try and break a new high. It's had one go, 2, now it's on its 3rd run up. Looking lower. Yeah, I think maybe later this afternoon, early this evening. So in the next 4 hours of me of my timestamp on this this video, which is 2:35 p.m. Australian time. Yeah, you could possibly see Dogecoin go for a little bit more of a run up and challenge this high again. But again, it all depends on these lower time frames, you know. So I think people are still bullish on Doge, but it's finishing the end of these cycles here, you know. So interesting. My concern is you've got to think of the higher time frames, like the 4 hour. Again, flattest attack. Takes a fair bit of buying to get this going, guys. Yeah, look, we're jumping all over the place here. Daily, not a lot to be concerned about. Yeah, we might get another pop up here and then it'll sort of maybe peel off. But maybe in this region here, might hit the 34-cent region, you know. So if you only got a small amount of money and you can put it on this, if you put maybe $1,000 into it, and let's say it makes this move from, say, here to, yeah, look at that, to 41 cents, which is a possibility, you know, there's a possibility. That's 50%. That's 50%, that's pretty big. Okay, so that's it for most of the coins, guys. I better leave it here. It's getting a bit long. Please like, subscribe, share it around. Bitcoin bankers, always bank on Bitcoin. Thanks for watching, and I'll try and start looking at the live shows as soon as I can, because that seems to get people's attention a little bit more than just popping up videos all the time. Anyway, guys, Bitcoin bankers out. Have a good one. Bye-bye.